Originally, our plan was to go ahead and do an air evac. That was absolutely thwarted by the SITCOM command and the State Department when we tried to land our plane. We had approved PPRs to land in HKIA. We had approved flyover approvals in the FAA. Our plane had been designated as an emergency humanitarian aircraft, which meant that we didn't have to meet just the seat standards, but we could actually do a weight and balance standard, which meant that I could have put 25 Americans, Brian, onto that plane. And as we were at like 9,000 feet in descent, landing gear down with an approved PPR landing slot, they waved us off.
And I'm hearing this over and over again in different situations. Just hours ago, FoxNews.com obtained documents showing the State Department has been blocking charter flights out of Afghanistan from landing at U.S. air bases, even when the flights have U.S. citizens on board. Britt Hume is a Fox News senior political analyst. He joins us now. Britt, we're trying to put this together. We have no sources on the ground, but it's pretty impeccable. It's been cross-checked that Mills is 100% right. The State Department came to this family once they crossed the border of this country that's going to be nameless. What are your thoughts about what we're seeing?
Well, it's pretty clear, Brian. You can trace all this back to the original decision to try to get the military out before you had the civilians out and before you even had a reasonable plan to get them out. So now we are where we are. We've got people being helped to get out by individual groups. You've got disputes about who's responsible, who helped and who didn't. You've got the situation in Mazar-e-Sharif with airplanes sitting on the ground with Americans on them. The State Department may not want to clear them out because they don't know who else is on the planes. Indeed, Brian, when you think about it, we don't know who we've gotten out so far. We've gotten tens of thousands of Afghans out, and on, at first glance, that's a good thing. But do we really know who they all are? Were they really all properly vetted there at that airport in that chaotic scene that we saw with people, standing knee deep in sewage and being rushed onto the tarmac and gotten out of there as fast as they could get them out because it was the only way to do it? I mean, this is an absolute train wreck. And all these disputes that we're seeing now about people who can't get out and so on are all a result of the original decision.
Absolutely. And no one got to the airport that wasn't in Kabul already. Stands to reason they'd be other places in the country. Chad Roberto also told me this morning on radio, he's a recon Marine working with a group called Save Our Allies. He doesn't believe there's 100 left. He believes there's well over 1,000 Americans left by the calls he's getting because the State Department won't answer. The one thing is pretty clear. I don't really believe anything the Secretary of State or President's been telling us on this because all has been proven untrue.
Well, we've certainly seen instance after instance where they said they were going to do this and they did something else. And the most conspicuous one, which I think Joe Biden will never live down, was when he promised in a televised interview that we would stay there until we got all the Americans out, and then he didn't do that. And that's manifest. Nobody in the U.S. government is now pretending they did get all the Americans out, except for Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, Senate Democratic and Majority Leader, who said, and I've seen it on videotape, where he said we got all the Americans out who wanted to get out. That is not true, and nobody in the administration is saying that that's true. So this is the kind of thing we're confronted with, and this is a stain, I think, that it is going to be very long time wearing off, if indeed it ever does. I suspect that it never will.
So, Brett, I watched 35 minutes of Meet the Press. Not a word about Afghanistan. And when they did bring it up, it was about poll ratings. Face the Nation, second half hour. This is a lead story in any other era. Why is this not a lead story now? The compelling video, the cargo jet, people falling off the side, human tragedy, the explosion that killed 13 Marines as 18 others struggling for their lives. How could that still not be a lead story in American television?
I think the answer is pretty obvious, Brian. We don't have the kind of media we used to, where the news coverage was pretty neutral, opinion reserved for the editorial pages and for the columnists. Nowadays, journalists get to indulge their opinions, and many of them are editors now who want to cover the stories that make their side of things, which means the left side, look better, and they don't want to cover stories that do the opposite. And we're seeing this, in spades now on the front pages of newspapers, where this continuing crisis in and about Afghanistan is being pushed off the front pages in favor of, Joe Biden's $3.5 trillion spending plan or whatever the next thing is that the journalists would like to see the world move on to.
I just have more faith in the American people when it comes to war and peace and the American lives. They care more than I think politicians understand. I wish for that. I wish they would rise up and make Afghanistan matter again. At least I know the people we're in touch with still care. Britt Hume, thanks so much.